Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. I'm Nicholas Sacco, your host for this week's episode 26 of season 5, or episode 139 if you're counting from the beginning. It was the performance we were asking for, approaching finals. A strong 70-point victory over the Dons confirms our place on top of the AFL ladder. And with the upcoming break, we can focus on what is going to be an enormous finals campaign for the Black and White. Today we'll talk about that Bombers clash, go through some of our reflections on the home and away campaign, thanks to AskPiesNation, talk VFL, and speak to our next guest crowd competition winner. I know Friday seems like so long away, but happy to talk about it because it meant that with the 4 points, we secured top of the ladder, which is what it's all about. And to help me do that today, I've got Jack and Luke in the studio. Boys, really nice feeling from the top, that's for sure.
It is, Nico. It didn't really matter how we did it on Friday, as long as we did do it. And we secured top spot. Great reward for what's been a great season so far. Obviously, we're probably not playing the best footy that we'd hoped to be playing at this time of year, but I think Fly can really get these boys to reset over the next week and a half and coming into a huge game against Melbourne, Lukey.
Yeah, and you said it wasn't about how we did it as long as we got it done, but I thought we hit our straps again. I know it was a poorer opposition in Essendon and they were honestly quite awful, but I thought we actually got our mojo back, particularly in the first half, just with our ball movement, scores from turnovers, that kind of thing. And to lead by, 70 points at one point, roughly, without them kicking a goal, I just thought we got our attacking game back on, our pressure. Things starting to click back again, and a bit of confidence for the boys, confidence for supporters, because I was like, yeah, if we play like this, we're going to be pretty tough to beat. And just sort of a reminder for the competition that we didn't just finish first for no reason, and it wasn't all just luck. So
I just want to reflect on that fact for a moment that we did finish on top, because even us coming into the start of the year couldn't have predicted that we were able to end the campaign as minor premiers. It probably didn't start to sink in, I think, and maybe it's different for you boys, but probably after that Port win is when you sort of look and go, yeah, we can really make something of this campaign. And I know we've been playing some really good football in the lead up, but to have such a hard-fought result go our way at that point, with 2 games clear on top, we still finish on top by the end of it. That's sort of when we get to a stage where we can take the next level. And I know, as you mentioned, Jack, we haven't been playing terrific football, probably up until Friday night, but doesn't mean we can't get back to that very quickly. So it's great to see. We'll get to some of the reflections from our Ask Pies Nation crew later on in the show. But let's get to the part that caught your eye, because with a performance like that, I'm sure you could just about pick everyone in that 23. So who have you gone for this week, Jack?
The most obvious one, Nico, Jack Ginnivan, I've gone for this week, is the pilot caught my eye. Look, outside of Anzac Day, probably his most complete performance at senior level. I think we called last season and probably at times this season that we needed to see more fouls in Jack's game, upping things like pressure intensity when we don't have the ball. And I think since coming back in his return game against Geelong, where he was, it was unfortunate because we lost Darcy Moore, but it was fortunate, I think, because he got more game time. We really have seen that, and he reaped the rewards of it on Friday night. Finished with 17 touches and 3 goals. So he was the pilot caught my eye, Lukey.
you stole mine.
Yeah, I had to go to myself.
That was Jack's most complete performance, and he's really made it very hard to kind of question his selection in the team. So I'm happy for Jack, and he brings, along with Mason Cox as well, they're the type of players that bring the energy, bring the crowd really into the game. So I think come finals time, that's very important for us.
We'll chat on his game just for a touch more. He finished with 82% disposal efficiency. He had 6 scoring involvements and 3 goal assists, which I'm really glad he's adding that string to his bow, because we know that he can kick great goals, but the fact that he's been able to be so unselfish inside forward 50, hand it off to players and get them involved, has been a great asset of his this year. 387 metres gained as well, along with 4 inside 50. So I think we're seeing a bit more of a mature Jack Ginnivan. And of course there was that decision in the forward line. Of course he wins a high free kick, which we won't get into that too much. But
a punch to the head.
Yeah, exactly right. No, but it showed to me that as much as it was great that he could still get the crowd pumping, the nice celebrations, and kick 3 goals in the end, still to me showed that he has developed his game this year, and a lot of VFL time for him, which I'm sure he was really struggling to get through at stages. But he's come away a better footballer, I think, as not just one or two little things that he's good at now. He's starting to really gel with the team and the way that Fly wants to play. So credit to Jack for what he's been able to do over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and that was summed up by a passage, I think, in the first quarter, where he had about 2 or 3 disposals worth, but just second, third, fourth efforts, tackle, got the ball back and just clean with the disposal as well, and moved it from sort of the half back all the way inside forward 50, and he was a part of that whole passage at different points and just never gave up on it. So if you're watching the highlights or want to go back and see just a few of Jack's efforts, that play summed up sort of the difference between him last year to where he's got to now, and that VFL stint has been the cause of that, which has really helped him.
Yeah.
So
You think now he's secured his spot for the rest of the season, regardless of how far we go?
Yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting one because I also thought Bobby Hill played an immense game on Friday night as well, Nico. And with Bo McCreary coming back into this side, the structure of that forward line is so intriguing. I think for mine, there's a long way to go, and we're going to spend the next week and a half figuring out what that looks like. But I think his position at the moment probably looks as a sub, which is really, really stiff considering the position, like how good he's been since coming back into this side. So, but yeah, what do you value?
have you got Guinea in the sub or McCreary in the sub?
I've got Ginnivan as a sub. So Ginnivan with Bobby Hill and McCreary starting. I've got Ginnivan coming on as a sub.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a talk we'll have to get to later on.
As we know, I'm not
sure.
the man to be doing making selection calls.
No, well, that's all right. It keeps the listeners going, so we can get that movie. Part that caught my eye. I had to go with Tom Mitchell because I thought he's someone that's been under a little bit of pressure of late. Even as late as last week, we were talking about where his best spot was in the team, if he was even in our best 22 at stages. And I felt like he was really able to get back to his best alongside the whole side. Finished with his 33 touches, which we know is just a great part of his game, but he's not what we've recruited him for. We're there for his clearances, and he finished with 7 of them, which I think was critical in that first half and getting the ball moving forward and set the tone of what we were trying to achieve. Also ended up with 20 pressure acts, 10 contested possessions, 6 tackles. So we really were disappointed with Mitchell's effort last week in terms of, I know he's not a tagger, so to say, but couldn't really keep up with Lachie Neale. His pressure around the football was really subpar, and he's turned that around in the Friday night's game against Essendon to a point where he was really a standout in that midfield, along with the likes of Jordan Ngoe, who came back to his absolute best. And I know there's still players we're missing around that area, but I felt like it was an important game for him to get his own confidence back, and hopefully this means we can see Tom Mitchell at the peak of his powers come finals time.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. He's actually got I think he got a vote or 2 for me this week. So yeah, and I know people questioning Tom Mitchell's spot in the side, but I don't know if we can win the premiership without him at his best in our side. And unfortunately, like if we did take him out, we're missing such an integral part to what helped us so much earlier in the season. I think he needs to be in there.
Well, you think about how important he would have been last year in the final series in those tight encounters. So I think this game just proved that he deserves that best 22 spot.
Yeah, for sure. It's Tom Mitchell for mine unlocks the potential in others. You know, we speak Jordan De Goey's, even your Patrick Lipinski types running through the midfield. There, Tommy Mitchell's ability to get his hands dirty and feed the ball out to those boys running past is absolutely huge. So hopefully he's one that can benefit from this pre-finals bye, rest up, and be raring to go against Melbourne.
Let's get into the game.
Sorry, I had my play that caught my eye too.
Oh, was it not Ginnivan? Were you not going with?
Well, I was going to jump in and take.
Give me a backup then.
I was going to my backup, Jordan De Goey, and
very nice.
Just briefly touched on him as well. And I think Tom Mitchell being at his best unlocks Jordan De Goey's best, and I think we saw that on Friday night. He had the 27 disposals, 17 kicks, over 500 metres gained. And I thought with the goal he kicked early as well, I think it was the first goal, real confidence type boosting goal, got the crowd into it, got him up and about, and I thought he just went away with it and had a really consistent 4-quarter performance.
And although I was at the game, Nico, it was so pleasing to come home and James Brayshaw didn't butcher that moment, and it went, the commentary almost fit.
So was it
what
good?
Was going to happen. It was good because they're running through the middle, and James Brayshaw went early, but it carried off, and I think he went, you can put it in your book or something like that before he even kicked it. It was it's actually elite. So we've been absolutely canning 7AFL on the Fire Station pod recently. So a bit of props to James Brayshaw on the team.
Great effort there from Brace, of course, and De go to 27 touches, 524 metres gained, 8 inside 50s and 7 score involvements. He became that perfect linked-up player between the midfield and half-forward, which we know can be the goalie's best football when he's playing that role. So great to see him back from his little injury. Let's get to the game in a bit more detail. Jack, you mentioned off the top that we hadn't been playing our best football, and Friday night we were able to get that 70-point win and just move on from there pretty much. But for me, this was the perfect game leading into finals. We had been slammed in the media from pillar to post about our poor pressure, inability to win contested football, clearances were dropping, forward line structure having problems. But there was so much pressure for us, at least it felt for me, coming into this game against an Essendon side who had been really poor, had a horrible week against GWS the week before, weren't going to make finals. You would expect the Bombers to come out with a little bit more vigour, and of course they didn't. But the point being that it's exactly how we needed to start that game. A massive 12-goal opening half really put the tone of the match towards our favour. And for me, it felt like it was exactly what we needed to do. I know we didn't go on to win by 150 points, but we didn't need to. And for those that are saying that it was only against Essendon, I'm not taking any of that because we played a Hawthorn side that had won one of their last 5 games. We got pumped. So we actually respected the Bombers coming into this clash, knowing what they had been through the week before. And I believe this was the perfect response we needed heading into finals. And yeah, we may have parked the bus a little bit in the last term and just had things just quickly go by. But for me, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect leading game. I think just the mental aspect of what this does for this group, it can't be overstated. Just to, return back to form. It was vintage Collingwood of, we're vintage, we're still in the same year, but vintage 2023 Collingwood in that first half particularly. You look up, you blink, and all of a sudden you're 50 points ahead, and you've got 8 different goal scorers, and it's just amazing. So, yeah, really, really glad we were able to see some sort of form there. Although, again, as Nico said, we probably did park the bus a little bit and put the queue in the rack in the second half there when the game, was dead. We could afford to, and really good to do that. I mean, it would have a little bit of a different taste in your mouth, I think, if you only go and win this game by, your 10, 20 points and you're struggling a bit, then all of a sudden you do worry about what could happen in a couple of weeks' time. But they were a really professional win from a side that's finished a couple of games clear on top, Nico. So, good on them.
We still won by 70, so it was... Yeah. But, I thought Essendon actually did bring the heat a bit in the first 10 minutes, and it was a bit of a battle to get kind of on top early, and as soon as we got a couple goals, they just went away, and that's when we just unleashed. But I thought we really did bring the pressure and brought the heat towards them. And I know, they've struggled a bit of late, Essendon, but coming off a 130-point loss, like you'd think they're going to come out and try something. But I like to think it was more of us bringing the heat and pressure to them that really put them under the pressure. And
especially because it could have been very easy for us to get to a 6-7 goal margin and think, all right, that's all we need to do for the rest of the game. No injuries, let's go into conservation mode and, just wrap up the rest of the game as it was. But we were able to really put the foot down right up until half-time. It was a scrappy second half, let's be honest. There wasn't much going on. There was a bit of rain falling about. Everyone just wanted to go home because we had seen enough. But, I agree, Jack, and that's the right way to put it. Really professional performance. Just shuts all the critics up for it just a little bit. We finish on top. It's a big 70-point win, and it puts us in good stead coming into 10 days' time.
It just reminds everyone, when we're at our best, we are going to be very tough to beat. And honestly, I think we are the best in the competition. We've finished first. We've earned the right to finish first and have the home final. But I genuinely think our football is the best in the competition. It's just a matter of whether we can get that going over the next month.
Gee, I feel a lot better coming in and listening to Lukey say that. I've been all doom and gloom recently.
I've probably been the most optimistic throughout.
You know what he's
and
like.
Lukey comes in, just delivers all this confidence. I absolutely love it.
Well, when you listen to Craig McRae as well, and he's not revealing. It feels like he's not revealing everything, but you can kind of read between the lines with a few things he says. You just know that at least since the Port game, which you mentioned earlier, felt like as big a final as any home and away game will feel like. And it just feels like that was, all right, we are the best in it right now. We've got ourselves in a good position, but it is a marathon. There's still a long way to go, and we still need to prepare ourselves for finals. We've got ourselves in pole position. Let's just get our way, rest here and there. Let's tinker with a few little things, experiment, see what we can sort of conjure up. And then it felt like to me on Friday night was like, all right, we need to get going again. This is the start of the season starts now again. And because after 10 minutes, I said, this is finals footy for us right now. We've started, and that was the little warm up. Now we go to the real stuff. So
that's what we like.
Yeah.
See,
don't worry, Jack.
Jack. We're all good.
Well, it shouldn't also be forgotten as well. Last year, completely different scenario in that we were fighting for a top 4 spot right until the final siren of season 2022, and this year we'd had the top spot locked up at half time. But we weren't really playing the best footy coming in to the conclusion of last year's season and heading into finals. And then even though we lost, I felt like that Geelong game will go down as one of the best Collingwood performances I've ever seen in my time going and watching the footy. Again, we lost to the eventual premier, but so I think that reset is completely possible. I mean, I feel like a lot of commentaries going, are they leaving their run too late? All this stuff. It is completely possible. We are capable under Craig McRae and under the staff that we've got there at the moment to just flick a switch and get back to what we know is our best footy. So really, really, really keen
even
on this
based off
game.
Maxie's comments when we had Nick Max on, and speaking about Jared Wade and the strength and conditioning, and he's someone that's seeing he's not currently there, but seeing what was going on behind the scenes and just trusting that they know what they're doing. And they probably learnt a lot from last year as well.
For sure.
And it was Craig McRae's first actual proper year in, another pre-season, another off-season, just to get what he wanted in place. So I know it's only his second year, and I hope we continue to develop and get better year on with him. But right now, I have utmost faith, belief, and confidence in what they're doing behind the scenes.
I'm
It's
glad.
rubbing off as well.
You're all over it. No, I'm glad that this. I mean, I've been a little bit skeptical about the pre-finals bye, but if there's a season I've been enjoying it this year, I think it's going to be one that we're really going to make the most of. So we'll see if that can continue to be the case. A couple of little other things from Friday night to have a brief chat about. So the forward structure was one. Ended up seeing 8 goals combined between Ginnivan, Myercheck and Elliott. So nice to see Checkers get a few goals too. Elliott ended up finishing at half time with his was it corky that he ended up having? I'm not too sure what it ended up being.
I thought it was more tactical, but they said injury.
Overall, whatever it was. But he seems to be okay anyway. So that was nice. And I think we're still a little, not 100% sure about this forward structure yet, are we? Even coming into finals, which I guess we could come to expect. But nice to see when it does come together like it did on Friday night, how lethal it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, though, that we haven't relied on at any stage this year, Nico, which I think is good. Melbourne are in the exact same boat. There's a lot of talk around what their best forward structure looks like, but that's probably not where they're winning most of their games in this this season. And I feel like that's probably the same could be said with us. When we do win and win well, we have a large spread of goal kickers, as you've just highlighted there with Elliott, Brody, Myercheck and Ginnivan. So, yeah, I think I really am comfortable with. I think what should not be understated as well. Even though he doesn't get on the scoreboard, Dan McStay's game as well, I thought was incredibly solid. What he's able to do up the ground, and the work he's providing for us is huge. So that shouldn't go unspoken.
He's doing
about.
a lot of work that does not get any reward, any recognition.
Checkers 2.0.
Yeah, and allowing blokes like Myercheck to get on the end of it.
And Checkers got on the end of it, and it's whether they're chopping and changing that role. But on Friday night, it really felt like McStay took that upon himself to go, no, you go for it. You boys have a bit of fun and let me just... obviously, that he 9 times out of 10, McStay is going to get the number 1 key defender, so maybe it's something they really want to put in place across the final series. But I'm just longing for the week McStay gets on the end of 3, 4, even 5, because I think he deserves it. He's putting in a lot of work at the moment.
I mentioned Elliott's sub coming on was Finn McRae for the second half, and we finally got to see him in action in 2023. Finished with 7 touches. None of those were kicks, but he did have 8 tackles, clearance and a scoring involvement during those last 2 quarters. Probably would have been handy for him to be in the first half instead of the second half, just to see how he fitted with us going full pelt when the game was sort of over when he came onto the field. But nonetheless, it's been a player that fans have been crying to see. He gets his opportunity, which is fantastic. I don't know if he's going to stay in his 22 come finals time and what his future even holds in the black and white, which we'll get to later on. But was it nice to see McRae back playing in the senior team this week, albeit for a game or a half at least? It didn't end up mattering.
I was happy, but I'm just a little confused on the thinking. Is the plan for him to come in through the final series, or just because he hasn't been in there at all this year, is it here have
Ended up playing VFL the next day as well.
here it's a bit of a dead rubber, have a run around as the sub. I don't know. I was a bit confused because I know he had an injury, so a thumb. That's why he was wearing the gloves. So he probably missed an opportunity there. But I felt like he could have had an opportunity earlier in the year as well. So yeah, he's a tough one because it is tough to go play VFL all year and then only play a half at AFL level, and the expectation of him to come in through the finals is going to be pretty tough. So I don't know. How did you see that, Jack?
Yeah, well, I was really pleased to see him get a go first and foremost, Nico, after the year that he's had. And I think I sent into our WhatsApp group. I thought he was done for the season. So when I saw him coming up on the senior side sub list, I was very surprised. But yeah, I was pleased to see him finally get some reward for, again, the season he's had. The way the game unfolded, though, it probably didn't feel like we got a lot out of it in terms of what we might know about Finn McRae's role come September. But it is good to know that he has had some form of AFL exposure. If touch wood, we have to make some unforced changes with injuries to blokes like Tom Mitchell and people in our midfield. So I think it's nice to know that he's had, albeit a really small sample size, some exposure to senior footy this year.
I just think him, along with probably a couple others, could have had a bit more exposure throughout the year. And it's going to be too late now for a few of them. So McRae's got his shot, but it's only a half in a game that was over. So
I'll be surprised if we see him play again this year, to be honest. But who knows? Stranger things. Your man, Oleg, another fantastic game. 19 touches at 94%, nearly 400 metres gained, 7 marks and 4 rebound 50s. He's someone that has absolutely solidified that spot in the best 22.
And he's not even I wouldn't even have him as a contender for the sub now. I think he's earned his way in the starting 22. He just brings that energy, that run, that dash, and he has been actually so clean with his ball use as well. One of our cleanest ball users off the halfback. So he really has solidified his spot, and it's great when you see the post-match interviews with him, and he was speaking about his little celebrations he does for the little things like the tackles and spoils, and that just sums up Fly's vision and this team. So you got to have him in there. So it's awesome to see.
And he never loses his feet, Nico. I've never seen anything like it. It looks like he's about to fall over.
Road runner, mate, I'm telling you.
He somehow just stands himself up and keeps going, which in AFL footy is, I think, an underrated thing to be able to do. So, he's been phenomenal, I think, Oleg, coming on this year as a sub. And now it's so nice to see him that he's solidified himself into this 22, and looking forward to what he can bring to us in September.
Show your love for Oleg by getting his merch, by the way. So be sure to head to AskPiesNation.
Shirt on
Not today, but that's
tonight,
okay. Be sure to
still
head to
300.
Be sure to head to our AskPiesNation social accounts, and you can get all the Oleg merch selling like fire right now. Any other notes to make from the game? Pretty much all I think has been said from what took place on Friday night. Got the win against Essendon and moved on.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty easy win, and you move on pretty quickly onto the real stuff now. So,
Jesus, Sash boys are going to love hearing this when they get in.
Are they
here.
coming tonight?
I'm sure they'll be loving it.
They got a lot to ponder over the off season. I think.
Do they? Don't. They've already done their delistings today, so they're really into postseason mode. It's what we love to see because we don't like them. Let's get to our votes then from Friday night. The fan votes were very, very close in terms of who got top. Ginnivan just edges out Jordan De Goey by 3 votes in the end. Tom Mitchell and Jamie Elliott all around the mark too. Josh Dacos just had another lazy 25. He's been just continuing his brilliant form over the last month or so. In fact, the whole season, you could say. And that was pretty much how it ran it out with the fans. We'll get a leaderboard update for you during the bye, and we'll see, with Nick Dacos still out of the team and heading into finals, if there's any contenders for him to be taken over.
And Nick essentially ruled out for week 1.
Yeah, which we expected.
But they kind of officially announced that. So
let's get your votes then. I'll start with you, Jack.
No worries. So 1 vote I gave to Brody Myercheck. Come to think of it now, probably his game was unlocked by someone like a Dan McStay and that structure of a Friday night. But again, he's still got to go out there and do his job. And once again, not for the first time, he executed his role to perfection. So I gave him my 1. 2 to Jordan De Goey. I was tossing up between him and Jack Given to give my 2 or 3, but couldn't go past young Jack. It's good to see him adding these strings to his bow, and come September, having someone like him in our side is going to be so valuable.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Luke?
Yep. So my one vote, Tom Mitchell. We've spoken on him and what a brilliant game he played and how important his role is to this team. 2 votes I gave Jordan De Goey, again unlocked by Tom Mitchell's performance, and the 3 votes Jack Inovan. If he plays like that through September, he is going to be huge for us, and it's going to be massive in terms of our chances going forward. Nico.
Yeah, pretty similar. 1 to Jordan De Goey. Thought he set the tone at the start with that great goal, and things just were able to click from there pretty much. Tom Mitchell gets 2, that confidence-boosting game that he needed to get himself right ahead of finals. And Jack Inovan gets 3. He has just been able to seal his spot in that 22, and it's great to see him be in the form he has over the last fortnight. So looking forward to seeing what he can do come September, because we know he loves the big stage. So hopefully he can deliver. So that's Essendon done. We won't talk about them for the rest of the season, which we're happy about. What we will do after the break, though, is get your Ask Pies Nation thoughts on what's been another terrific campaign from the Pies. Plus, speak to our next guest, the crowd competition winner, and a big VFL wrap-up after our huge wildcard victory on the weekend. So all that plus so much more on the other side. Welcome back to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. Let's jump right into things with Ask Pies Nation. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, TikTok, everywhere you can find us. We're nearly 500 subscribers as well on YouTube, which is great.
Yeah,
so
we're smashing it on TikTok.
Yeah, as we know, the
love the
controversies
reels.
keep coming, so that's
Jack,
great.
say a few more outlandish things to get us pumping on there. No, it's good.
It is,
the
yeah.
video content's really building it up, so it's nice.
So if you haven't subscribed or followed yet on any of our platforms, be sure to get involved at Pies Nation. Let's get to Ask Pies Nation then, and it was just a nice little reflection type of post this time, Lukey, about the home and away season on top of the ladder. Just in case you haven't heard or you need reminding, we did finish on top of the ladder, minor premiers. Go ahead, Lukey.
Yeah, not much to talk about from the Essendon game, so I thought, well, let's look at something else. Sort of rate the season out of 10 and best wins, best moments, because, like, at the end of the day, we are minor premiers and it's something we should really celebrate. I think it was our 20th, which is the most out of any of the clubs, so
no surprise.
Very good. Leo the Master, 9 out of 10 has to be it. Not perfect given dips in form and inconsistency within games, but we've just finished a 23-game season with 18 wins. Favourite moment for me has got to be John Noble's goal against the Crows in round 7. Thought we had less than 0 chance to steal that game.
Yeah, that was crazy. A crazy game, that one against the Crows. I mean, on top of all the umpiring controversies that came out of it, didn't look like we were going to get on top, fought our way back in the final term, and yeah, great result. 9 out of 10, not bad either.
John Caxos, 8.5 out of 10. Great effort to finish top spot 2 years after finishing near the bottom, losing the coach, the president, clean out of staff, loss of favourite players and the club as a whole hitting rock bottom. Good wins but not commanding wins. Often kept our opponents with a sniff. Favourite wins have to be the Cats in round 1. Anzac Day from come behind victory. The win in Adelaide versus the Crows, which I thought we had no chance of winning, coming only off 5 days after our Anzac Day win and featuring some horrendous hometown umpiring and the 2 victories over the Power. Was there 2? Yeah.
Round
early,
2 and then against it. Yeah, interesting. 8.5. I mean, obviously very technical, which we like. In my opinion, I don't think it can be any less than a 9.
Yeah, what were your 2 ratings?
Oh, it has to be 9.
Minimum.
10 even, because I think it's amazing how your perspective changes over the course of a season, Nico. We've spoken about how when you get to you put yourself in a position so the goalposts do have to change to a certain extent, but you know, you got to remember, in the corresponding game, this game against Essendon 2 years ago, they flogged us by 5 goals in front of a personless MCG. There was no crowd there. We finished 17th, one of the most dismal seasons I can remember supporting the Collingwood Footy Club. And then now, just 2 seasons later, we've finished a game clear on top. And like, that's just ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a huge, and I think even drawing comparisons to where I thought we'd be at the start of the year, that 6th to 10th mark was my prediction to, again, finish a game clear on top. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
And I think a few people are sort of waiting till finals to really give that 10 out of 10.
Fine,
but in terms of home and away, we've done everything possible that we could have. So 10 for me as well. But Danielle Malas, 9.8 out of 10. 2 missing pieces to the puzzle left, which so they're adding on future. Dacos to get the Brownlow and Pies finished the year with the trophy to make it a perfect 10 out of 10. Favourite moment, Jamie Elliott's 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to beat Port by 2 points. Clutch as always.
Yes, of course. Yeah, 9.8. That's also a respectable total, I think.
Well, given our ratings, what are our favourite moments from the year? What's our favourite? Can we think of that? Any of those
Mine,
off the top of the
like
head?
that Port Adelaide win in terms of a whole game. And the Anzac Day last quarter, we were 28 points down, I think, that day. And the other Adelaide win, the earlier one, was another memorable one for me. So
Does beating Carlton count? Because as long as we did
that was
I
right.
don't care. No, I'd have to say Anzac Day too. But I think that round 1 victory over Geelong is very underrated. Because we were coming into that game, reigning premiers, didn't really know where we were seeing ourselves fit. We had our big recruits coming in, and at one point, it looked like we were going to get pumped by 5 to 6 goals as well when Howe went down and the Cats got on a roll. So to turn it around from then on, from the second half of that game onwards, it was just a season we all wanted. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm like Lukey. It's hard to go past that Port game as well. I think being there, it was so special. It's a weekend I'll never forget and a game that I'll never forget either.
And I think maybe potentially over the next week, a lot of people might reflect on the home and away season with the break and stuff. But until we hopefully go all the way and you really do reflect on the year. It has been a really good year. A really exciting year.
Longest season in a while, probably ever.
And when we just touch on it for a minute there about some of the wins, but it's like we did have some bloody good wins this year, some bloody good moments. And I think a lot of it comes from we had such an exciting year last year that this year potentially hasn't felt as exciting, with some wins being a bit easier, not as thrilling, but I still think this year...
That makes it just as good, I reckon.
This year rates just as highly, if not better, for the consistency across the year and generally being the dominant side. So, Earlhane LFC 7, 9.5 out of 10. Yes, we lost a few, but we've bounced back much stronger to finish as minor premiers, have ourselves a home final, and getting back some key players also. Absolutely loved every moment of the home and away season.
Did you say, is it 7? Is that his username 7 or was it 9 point?
Erhan LFC 7.
Okay, so he didn't give it a 7. He
No,
said
9.5 out of 10.
I was going to say, yeah. Jesus, yeah, go on.
Dubsy 05, 9 out of 10. Pretty amazing effort to go through with only 4 losses, but it will be a big 10 if we can win the flag.
Yep.
Favourite moment would have to be not footy related, but Bo's mum giving the rev up speech. That was about the time I knew this club really was on a journey and in a good spot to win the cup. And favourite win would have been the Anzac Day Classic Storm from behind win. Go Pies.
Yeah, underrated moment. Maybe that Bo McCreary rev up is what we need come finals time next week.
David knows more. Can only be a 10 out of 10 if we win it all. Right now, an 8 feels about right. Favourite wins were definitely the Anzac Day game and the first Adelaide game. Favourite moment was round 1 when Moore tackled Ollie and roughed him up a bit.
Jeez,
that feels like a long
talk about
time
that
ago.
moment so on. What's Ollie doing right now? He had a nice Mad Monday today. Just sitting back watching us play finals. Good to know. Yep.
Daniel McCarthy, 7 out of 10. Set up well for a tilt.
7?
Set up well for a tilt at the flag. Favourite moment, Darcy Moore's Anzac Day speech. Moore's tackle on Henry in the goal square. And a Pendle's tap to Nick Dacos. Shrugs the tackle and boots a goal. Favourite win versus Adelaide and Port Adelaide.
7 after all of that. Anyway, okay, each their own. That tap though from Pendles to Dacos and that goal.
And that Port game,
unreal.
that was probably one of our most dominant,
4-quarter
if
wins,
not
yep.
most dominant victory of the year against a quality side in Port Adelaide. So, and I know if we end up facing them in Melbourne over the final series, that game is going to be one they're going to be looking back on. A bit worried today. Lucas Garth, I'll finish with 8 out of 10. Can't get a 10 without always beating the old enemies and still needs the finishing touches, i.e. a flag. Still considering a challenging fixture. It was a great performance. Highlights the Geelong win. Anzac Day, the coming of Nick Dacos, and the captaincy of Darcy Moore. Yeah, that's a nice little way to wrap up. You got to remember the fixture obviously had to be a little bit tougher for us coming into this season, and we had to play Brisbane twice, of course. Play Carlton twice, who end up going on to make finals too. We play Port Adelaide twice, who end up finishing top 4. So in hindsight, it was a really difficult fixture, and the away trips was certainly no easy feat either. So yeah, glad we could come away with just 4 losses out of those 23. Pretty good effort. And we didn't get the double ups against the West Coast and the Norths.
No.
Yeah.
I think our
like
Essendon was the only one that was really, you could argue. But even then, we nearly lost the first game.
And
so.
As well as that, like the percentage boosters that come from that as well. And our percentage was still quite strong. I don't know, was it the number 1 percentage? It was still quite was 127.
I think,
Which
because
actually-
Brisbane didn't win by much, so I reckon you're right.
We did still finish with the best percentage,
Yeah.
which always shows who the best side actually really was when you look at the percentage. Some teams actually come away with a few less wins, but still have a really strong percentage, and you look at them and go, they've had a really strong season, just may have got unlucky a couple games. But for us still to have a win ahead on first and the best percentage in the competition says a lot about how strong our season really was.
Gee, speaking of percentage, just looking now, Adelaide had the 4th best percentage in the comp, and they don't make finals.
And they're a good example of, they had
Unbelievable.
quite a few games, particularly that latest was Swans game they should have won. But they had a few others throughout the year that they really should have won. And that strong percentage shows that they're going to be a real good side in the coming years. So
Thanks, Derek, for the ladder update just over there.
There you
Yeah,
go, yeah.
4th best percentage. Oh, I feel stiff for the Crows. I know it was nice to beat them twice, but
And you look at Essendon 11th, they're only a game and a bit, a couple games now out of the 8. 89 percentage, 89.7, which is ridiculously low comparing to the teams around them. Adelaide 116,
yeah.
the Dogs 108, Geelong below them 112. So
Yeah, we don't really care about Essendon. All right, let's move on then. We've got the guess the crowd competition. We do a margin post.
no margins,
No margins,
correct. No one
just
was
the-
confident enough to tip us
tip
by
70.
70, so
Okay, very nice.
unfortunately not.
All right, well, let's get to our guess the crowd then. 7 people off. No need for the headphones this time,
No
Lukey.
headphones.
We'll hear
Phew,
straight
I
off
had
the
to go
speaker.
early.
Beautiful. No need to untangle them this time. 7 people off, is that correct?
Yes, yep.
Right.
Right, I believe so. It was about 7, but yeah.
Beautiful. 70,000. Did it feel like 70,000? Didn't look like 70,000.
74, 3,
74?
4,
Yeah.
4, I think
Yeah.
it was.
I have noticed this year more than any other years, when it's not your home game at the MCG, you really do struggle to get, it feels like Essendon coming off a 130-point loss. A lot of their fans didn't turn up, and there was still probably more Essendon fans than there were Collingwood fans.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's hard to get to the footy when it's not your home game,
Mm.
depending on what sort of membership you've got,
Yeah.
etc. So yeah, it felt like there
wouldn't-
wasn't a lot of.
It wouldn't surprise. Like I really wanted to go to this game. It's always a good game against Essendon, no matter what. But it felt like a bit of a we can skip this one kind of thing and just save for finals tickets almost, because tickets can be quite expensive.
Geez, finals tickets are going to be fun tomorrow,
Yeah,
aren't they?
Yeah. So I feel like a few may have been in that boat, like not much to play for. Kind of we'll just miss this one and save ourselves. So
All right, well, let's get to, I guess, the crowd winner. We've got Ryan Taylor, who, as we mentioned, 7 people off the crowd. So we'll give him a call now, and we'll see what he's got to say about the Pies.
Hello.
Hello, Ryan.
Yeah.
This is Nicholas from the Pies Nation podcast, mate. Welcome to the show. How are things?
Oh, things are great, mate. Things are great. How are we, boys?
Yes, all going good. Top of the ladder. Can't get much better than that. Did you watch us seal first place on Friday night, beating the Essendon Footy Club by 70 points?
I did, mate. I was there, and it was a spectacle. It's always good smashing the Dons.
It's spectacle's one way to put it, that's for sure. We did the damage pretty early, which was great to witness. But look, one of our Ask Pies Nation questions today was about, I guess, reflecting on the home and away campaign. We're not really sure where we were going to sit leading up into the 2023 season yet. We finish a game clear on top. So I'll pose the same questions to you. What do you rate our home and away season out of 10? And what would you say your favourite win of the year has been so far?
Oh, it's got to be a 10, mate, surely. From where we've come last year to this year, the improvement of Dacos in particular has just been outstanding, really. Considering what I think we've had 5 losses for the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. 5 losses that's pretty good going in a 24 game long season, mate. And best win would probably have to be, I was there that game as well, Anzac Day this year, where we chased down the Dons again. That was outstanding.
Geez, I hope no Essendon supporters listen to this, because we've just been slamming them for the last 40 minutes. Actually, I have. Anyway, go on, Jack.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't have to chase them down this week, just gone like that, Nico. But thanks for coming on, mate. We love, obviously, always to hear the journey of our Pies Nation faithful and how they came to be Collingwood supporters. So could you run us through your journey to becoming a Pie?
Yeah, mate. Born and raised, mate, pretty much. Parents are both Collingwood. Dad's like a pretty much a full-blown Collingwood nuffy, so there was pretty much no option for me growing up. It was Collingwood or bust.
Yeah, nice. Love that.
Okay.
Sounds good, Ryan. Thanks for coming on and congratulations on your win. It's a prestigious award, this Guess the
course it is.
Crowd. A lot of people chasing me thinking they've won it, so congratulations to you. Sort of what we like to ask this question as well, kind of your favourite win of all time, but something a bit different, maybe a bit personal to you, a special reason why a certain game might be really memorable for you. Do you have one of those that you can share with us?
I'd probably say it'd have to be the 2018 prelim win. Was the first final I ever went to with my old boy.
Mm.
When we knocked off the Tigers, and obviously Mason Cox had the best game of his career by a long, long way. I'd have to say, mate, would definitely be the one that sticks out to me the most.
Yeah, that's very memorable for me as well.
Mate,
All of us, I think.
A great one. Guess the Crowd winner, of course. Sometimes we also like to get a bit technical. What's your method to working out the closest crowd? Because we've had a few interesting ones and trying to work out the capacity of stadiums and which clubs are playing. Any particular method into how you guess the crowd almost correctly this week, or is it just like it a draw?
Oh, a bit of a pot shot, to be honest. It was pretty much Essendon had obviously not done too well the week before, so I thought it was their home game, and I didn't think they'd be turning up in massive numbers to come watch. Obviously, Collingwood put them to the sword, so that was just sort of a ballpark guess.
Yeah, pretty standard.
I'll just ask you one more, Ryan. What's your crowd prediction for Thursday night footy against Melbourne for the first qualifying final?
Oh, mate, if it's anything shy of about 92,000, I'd be disappointed in the Magpie Army, to be honest.
And what's your thoughts on the Thursday night scheduling for us? Are you happy? Are you going to be able to make it, or is there a few issues with the Thursday night?
Oh, mate, believe me, I'll be there, and if we win, I'll definitely be pulling a sickie on Friday. For sure.
That's the thing. So, go on.
But I think we deserve. We finished top of the ladder. We definitely should have been in a prime time Friday or Saturday night slot. But I think the AFL have just realised that you can put the Magpies wherever, and the boys are just going to turn up.
Yeah, it's going to be more the Melbourne fans who have to delay their trips to the snow because they come on Thursday. Anyway, Ryan, been great to have you on as part of the podcast. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we've got a big final series to look forward to together.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, boys. Go Pies.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Ryan.
mate.
Thank you.
Go Pies.
There we go. That was Ryan joining us as part of our Guess the Crowd competition. That could be you if you guess the crowd closest. So don't have to worry about that this week, of course, with no game. But next week, keep an eye out for Lukey's post in the lead up to game day. Give your best shot at guessing the crowd. And if you are closest to the pin, you will be joining us as part of the Pies Nation podcast.
Lukey, do I sense a bit of venting that needs to go on about this?
We have to talk about it because we can't move on without talking about it.
I've got a good message here that I wanted to read out in regards to it. But yeah, it was frustrating. Frustrating that we did get scheduled on the Thursday because I know it does stuff up a lot of people being able to get to the game.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's hold that thought. We'll get to the VFL report first, and we can finish off with a little Tarrant. So, VFL, fascinating because as we've known with Marcus and his VFL reports, we had a wild card round last week against Richmond. And even though we were the home team, we played away at Punt Road. But it didn't matter because Richmond just did decide to turn up there at their home ground. We won by 75 points at the Swinburne Centre. 21-9, 135 to 8-12, 60. And we have now secured a spot finally in the top 8 of the VFL. It was a really dominant performance. In fact, the Tigers, though, they led by 2 points at half-time, incredibly, yet we went on to win by such a big margin. Only kicked 1 goal for the remainder of the game. We ended up with a massive 14 goals in the second half. So that was terrific to see all round. 10 individual goal kickers as well for our efforts. So just goes to show how dominant we really were, particularly in those last 2 quarters. But, of course, there's always one man that gives us the in-depth analysis of things at the VFL, and it's Serge with his VFL notes from the weekend. The Pies too good, winning the first wild card game to advance to finals. With the exception of the second term, the Pies dominated, getting on top of stoppages and clearance work. Pressure lifted after halftime, and the run was top class. Will Kelly and Sam Glover making their way back into the side. 10 individual goal kickers, 7 of those multiple. He gave Aiden Begg best on ground with his 3 majors, 6 marks and 14 hitouts. Kruger outstanding as a focal point up forward. He ended up with 4 majors during that match, which is great to see. Begg as well as Steen combined well in the ruck. Great efforts from Tardrew, Hustwaite, Jetta, Kelly, McRae. There was an injury, however, to Reef with a shoulder. And Josh Carmichael to concussion, which is a bit unfortunate. Great effort by Finn McRae, especially to complete 6 quarters of football. Of course, he played the 2 in the AFL, ended up playing the full game in the VFL, And as we mentioned, Kruger with 4, McInnes and Begg with 3 majors each. So a nice victory there for the VFL Pies. They ended up technically finishing in 7th spot on the ladder, even though we finished in 8th, because we now, actually I should say, 8th spot technically. We'll play Williamstown, who finished in 5th spot. That game over in Williamstown, and that one will be taking place this Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. So no AFL action. Be a good chance to head down to Willie and watch us take on the Seagulls. Hopefully get the win there and move on in style throughout the final series. So judging by that, again, some great performances coming out of the VFL boys. Probably not anyone that, as good as they've been, probably gets their way into the 22, especially with some of the names we still have to come back. Krug with 4 is great. I think the concerns, though, are coming through the injury stocks with McInnes and Carmile looking to miss a bit of time.
It is still good, as though, like, we know they're probably not going to find their way into this side as it sits. If something is to happen, Nico, that they're there, ready to go, in good form. So.
And the best thing is to hopefully happen is the VFL can keep going. So then if we do need a reserve side that's still going and someone has to go back, and then there's at least a game for someone to go back into, and then potentially you might have someone go back, play VFL, and then come back in for a grand final potentially. And if at least that possibility is there, then we'll need the VFL side going strong. So.
Well, we finished at the elimination final stage last year as well. Went down to a team I'm not going to mention. And as a result, same deal. We were able to have players, that were still playing football right up until the start of that final series, which can be very handy. So if we can sneak another win or two in the VFL over the next fortnight, that could be putting us in a very good stead.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully that is the case. As we mentioned, Williamstown this Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Make sure you head there, cheer on the VFL boys. Now, no need for a Monday headline, no need for a preview. Be sure to tune in next week, though. We're going to have a huge qualifying final preview with this game against Melbourne. It's going to be an enormous clash, as we know. Our first finals meeting with the Demons since 1989, so that's going to be great. Thursday night, though, I know you're wrapped about it, Lukey. So what's the beef with it? What's going on? What are you not happy about?
It's frustrating because it can be quite hard to get to the footy for a lot of people. Even on a Friday night across the weekend, regional members, interstate members, but a Thursday night becomes almost impossible, and I just don't. I'm not a fan of it, to be honest, across the season. In terms of going to the games, it's nice to watch on TV, to have it on the Thursday night, but to actually go to the games, which most people across the final series are going to want to go, it makes it very tough for a lot of people. And I've got a message from Ben Cook on Instagram. I had a little chat with him over Instagram about it, but I thought I'll let him know. I'll read his messages out, and sort of you get the perspective of regional interstate member. Ben Cook it is. Hey lads, what's the rationale of a Thursday night game? I'm based in Queensland and was planning to go to the qualifying final, thinking it would be Friday. Now can't do it because it means 2 days off work. Pretty down about it. And then it's very deflating for members like my wife and I. The rest of her family are based in Narrandera, Wagga Wagga. And also now can't go because of this. It just seems like greed by the AFL to get more bums on seats for dollars because they have marquee teams in the finals rather than the best option of fan experience by having it at the end of the working week. As usual, on a Friday. In Brisbane, we get one game against the Lions and maybe one against the Suns if it's their home game. We aren't able to just go to the game on Thursday. And when it's finals, you look forward to it and plan for it, and then they release the schedule and you cop this, and it stinks.
I think the rationale that we heard from our Guess the Crowd competition winner, Nico, whose name escapes me, Ryan, about, I think the AFL is realising now that they can just stick us anywhere and they're going to get bums on seats, and they're going to get the TV viewership as well, which is, probably could be viewed as greedy, which is probably true. I think, the other thing they've been trying to justify is that if the loser of this game will only get a 7-day break, we'll
get one extra day break than the opponent we'd be playing.
Which over the course of a week, does that really matter?
If you're coming off a bye, I don't know if it does, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think that matters too much. So yeah, very greedy of the AFL. I'd again also prefer it on the Friday night. The only positive is that it's one less day I have to stress over the footy, so we can get into it a little bit sooner. But yeah,
I also I loved when they used to have the Friday night, the 2 on the Saturday, and the 1 on the Sunday.
Yeah,
and I know the Sunday makes things hard for the next week for the loser and stuff like that.
Still better than Thursday.
The finals gets really the footy season ends really quickly once you get to finals. Obviously, you've got the 4 games in week 1, but then it's pretty much this, the 2 games and then the 1 grand final. But when you get to the Sunday and the week 1's already finished, it's like, what do we do now? Like, we've got a whole day here where we could have had a game on. It's just, I don't know, Thursday, it is good to watch on TV, but it makes it hard. Even living in Melbourne, living close enough to the G to just, then you got to get there, and then are you taking a sickie off on the Friday because
There'll
of
be
how
plenty of them either way. Yeah.
it just and then you got to think about the following weeks getting to the footy as well. So it just I frustrated, but you boys will be fine to get there. I'll be fine to get there, but it's
I'm
just
more worried
annoying.
about getting tickets.
Yeah,
to be
getting a
honest.
seat. It's going to be hotter than Taylor Swift, I reckon, this first qualifying final.
well,
No
to go.
brainer, Jack. What are you talking
If you
about?
don't get to that one, you can get to the Saints-Giants game, I reckon.
Oh, get around it. I know Derek, our producer, is going to
reckon,
love getting to the
I'm
Saints
not
this
sure
weekend.
why they put it at the G. They must be expecting the giant army to arrive.
The Orange Army to get their way through. That'll be a great game. Looking forward to it. Before we wrap up this episode, they've just announced the 44 squad for the All-Australian this year. And pleased to say that we got 5 members of that 44 representing the black and white. So congratulations to Nick and Josh Dacos, Darcy Moore, Jordan DeGoey and Isaac Quainer making their way onto that list. I think all of them make cases to be in that squad, certainly some more than others, but terrific to see that recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably Isaac Quain is the one out of the 5, Nico, that I'm not that confident that he'll get selected in the full squad. But yeah, certainly the Dacos boys should be in there. Darcy Moore, his start to the season was exceptional, so he should be there as well.
Yeah.
And Jordan DeGoey. I'm probably going to throw DeGoey in the same box as
You reckon?
Quain. I think he's been really, really good this year. But I think because of the games that he's missed and the nature of his positions, probably going to mean that he just gets pushed out. Just.
Could you cop having 3 of them in?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Dacoses
Dacoses
and
and
Moore?
more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But I'd love to see Quaynor get in there. I think he just plays a really different role that is really important for us. Das definitely has to get in there. Recency bias will come into it for a lot of opposition supporters, but he was All-Australian captain locked about a month ago. So I think he needs to get in there. And, DeGoey for me is probably the one that's on the edge.
Is there a sub option?
I don't know. Is there?
Can we get Quainer in as a sub or DeGoey? That'd be nice. All right, well, that's all we're going to have time for. As we mentioned, got a big qualifying final preview pod next week, so be sure to get involved across all our social media pages. Massive clash coming up against Melbourne. It's going to be a nice little week off from footy, boys, I think.
What are you up to, Jack?
Nothing,
Any plans?
Lukey. Nothing, absolutely nothing, and I'm looking forward to it. Wasn't a fan of the pre-finals bye, but after a long 24-round season, I think it's going to be really nice to have a bit of a break, maybe get down to the VFL down there in Williamstown, Nico, see how that goes. But yeah, looking forward to a week off because, I think with that Thursday game, Lukey, which you're keen as for, is going to roll around really quick.
And that is the positive of the Thursday, is it will roll around very quickly, shorten the week up for all of us. And so it'll be nice to have a break. And I think the players as well, just nice to have a bit of a reset and a reminder, now the real stuff is about to kick off. So.
Yes, can't wait. That is for sure. Well, thanks, Jack and Luke. Thanks for coming on.
Okay,
Thank you, boys.
Till next week, I've been your host, Nicholas Sacco. You've been watching or listening to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold.